morning, teacher. My name is Caterina Pila. And presentation the review of related literature. Review of related literature is a delayed review of existing literature relates of the topic of a dis or dissertation you talk about now. Reading. Reading is the process of receiving interpreted information in language for be the medium or prime. The research concludes that reading must develop. Tips of reading. Number one is intensive reading. Reading that focus on the language and vocabulary that the teacher teach in the classroom. Number two, extensive reading. Students read texts for fun to develop general reading skills. Number three, a lot of reading. And reading be usually low voice and cleaner. Number four, silent reading activity. It aims to train students to read aloud so they can concentrate and understand the reading better. The purpose of reading. The purpose of reading may read in order to gain information to verify exists now. Reading to search for simple information. It is a non-reading ability as researchers consider it a cognitive process. Reading to skim quickly. It is important to use basic reading comprehension skills in the text. Reading to learn from text. A person requires skills to remember the main idea, recognize and relate the text to the reader's background. Read to integrate information. An additional decision on the relative importance of complementary elements in recue. Reading to write and reading to create the text. They are variations of reading tasks to integrate information and require skills from the information of the text. Reading for general comprehension. When there is a skilled and fluent reader, very fast and authentic grounds the work processing and recue. Reading technicals. Number one is a scan. Is a technical you often use when looking up and word the telephone book or dictionary. Number two is the scan. Is the technical used to quickly the main ideas of the text. Theoretical models of reading process. Number one is the board map. It is a reading process and activity the problem solver. Top down is the resolve the problem the author is saying. Interactive. The interactive be of reading focus in the activity contribute natural of reading as the major instructional concern of the teacher. Teaching. The teaching is between interaction, teacher, and study. The learning process as effective where the teacher are demanded to utilize the approach, method, or appropriate technical use the teaching and learning process. The teaching reading is a complex process and read can express their idea. Give study feedback about their comprehension performance and conclusion in the order to information. Number one, the step of the teaching reading uh, is the pre-reading. This reading stage is intense or arouse the student interesting. The student can answer all the teacher question and utilize using the picture and complement the title. After determining the picture, the teacher will ask the student what is the possible title. Number two is the Wells reading. During the activity, the teacher gives the task before the study read the text. Is the called surfer problem, and it can be done several activity. It is a cultivated problem. I can be done. And final is a post reading. A post reading is a final activity that the student have to communicate in English. That is a reading that content of reading text. The student read the content in the date of words. Number two is the summarizing the content. I can be done by using the keywords to summary that context of the text. And finally is the give other cipher communicate is activity in the form on the jump sentences. Rule of the teacher. The teacher as controllate the show control and know what does student show and speak and language that student use. The teacher has director. Is a make instruction that must be followed by the student show as the theater wants to the conduct. The teacher as a manager. Have a plan lesson, molds and cross, and also agree the time or direction in the teaching and relation process. The teacher as a facilitator, ready to facilitate to the short of learn to achieve the goals in the teaching. And finally, the teacher as a resource, really as a resources for the student when the student need information. Technical of teacher reading. The technical of teacher reading is important. The reading the English teacher must be able to encourage their students to make reading as their habit or make them accustomed to reading. Number one is a cost. Close instruction is a technical that develops comprehension by delaying the words from a text. Number two, direct reading activity is an instructional form for a teaching reading where the teacher assumes the major instruction role. Question answer relationship is a technical used to identify the type of the response necessary to answer the question. Directed reading taking activity is an instruction form, the teaching reading that includes their stakes readers for reading activity reading and reaction to the story. And reads theater is a dramatic interpretation of play script to run oral interpreted reading. And repeat reading is the oral reading of the self-select Place occur in space and flow and represent the natural flow of language. And finally, summarization teach the student how to write summaries of what they read. He is a show how they like information and similar group the ideas and list supporting the details. Thank you, teacher, and my presentation.